stops, let me know. Hi, I'm Paul Campanis, long, brief last name. So you can just think of me as Paul. And thanks for coming. It's my lovely wife, Melanie, who really gets just about all the credit for anything I do good. You can look to her and ask her how I started. It's usually because Melanie said, Paul, you should really try this. And of course, I don't always take the advice right away. But I'm going to start by just saying this is an introduction to fasting. Fasting is a really big topic. And I'm going to look at it from a spiritual point of view and a health point of view. It's really hard to sort of pull the two apart. And people come into it for different reasons. Some want, more spiritual oomph, and some want more health, benefits. And so I'm just going to start by telling the story of how I sort of came into this. And because it's very improbable that I would be here at Brentwood United Methodist Church on late September 2018. Very improbable that I would be leading this class. At around the age of 10, my mom, a very smart lady, went back to work and sort of left me alone when I got home, and I would just pig out on junk food. We lived near the Hostess Twinkie factory in Massachusetts that was in Framingham, and we would have these chocolate pies and Twinkies, and I got really fat in around age 10. And that sort of stayed with me. And then as I got older, I would do a lot of sports and I'd lose the weight, but it would always come back. And I was really perplexed by this and very defeated. I was always looking for ways to lose weight, and I was thinking about it, talking about it, a lot of conversations with my friends at church and just around the office. Hey, I lost 10 pounds, and then it would come back. I gained 15 more. And so my trouser size would go from it went from like a 31 to like a 40. And I was just totally defeated. And I would read a lot and study a lot, and I just never really could lose the weight. And then spiritually also, I was sort of existing spiritually. I was going to church most of the time, but not all the time. There were periods that I'd stop going. I became a Christian when I was 21, but spiritually I just felt really flat. And so, it was really a struggle for me to really, keep my focus on God and keep my focus, on spiritual things. I would always, get really into my job or just get really lazy and not come to church. And then, I understood from the Bible that we're supposed to have the Holy Spirit, and we're supposed to have, one of the fruits of the Spirit is self-control. And I had no self-control. I mean, I would hide food, I'd sneak food, I'd steal food from my wife's cookie drawer. I'd go into her little office. I knew she kept the little treats, and she had wonderful self-control. But I was like, where is the stuff? I need it now. Which is why she'd hide it. Yeah. And then if dinner was like 5 minutes late, I was like looking in the lids and, taking little bits and sneaking around the kitchen, and while she's swatting me with a spatula. And I was just a wreck. I mean, I just had no self-control, and it was discouraging to be that way. And other people at church were experiencing the same thing. There were other people at church that were really getting heavier and heavier, and no one was seeming to have a victory in it. And I couldn't blame God, because I know God is God, and that's not. But I weighed 80 pounds more than I weigh now, and I've been fat. I'm 56 now, and I was fat until I was around age 51, and I was very unhealthy. I was in constant pain with arthritis. The doctor was saying things like, the heart disease is coming, the arthritis is here, the diabetes is, you're pre-diabetic, and I was literally falling apart. And it was just, getting to a point of, wow, this is really a grim reality. And so, so that's sort of my story. And
horrendous allergies.
Horrendous allergies. I was just miserable. I was sneezing and blowing my nose constantly. My ears were hurting. I want to tell you all I can't even remember them. 4 years, I've sort of, these things spontaneously healed, and I'm going to tell you about that. But I was very self-deceived. Melanie was cooking really good food around the house, and I would say I was on a really healthy diet. And I'd sit there and tell you, with my 80 pounds, how healthy I was, and I really believed that. And then I really started to, I started to get humbled, because I really didn't have a choice. I was being humbled. And Melanie and I went to a health conference in Florida, and they had a class on fasting. And what I started to understand is that God's logic isn't my logic. There's a verse in the Bible in Isaiah 55. It says, God says, my ways are not your ways. And so God's logic is very different than our logic. And I read things like in Colossians 3 and verse 15, where it talks about how Jesus made a public, I'll read you the scripture, I have it here. And having disarmed the powers and authorities, he made a public spectacle of them, triumphing over them by the cross. And on the cross, Jesus made a spectacle of the Romans and the religious people that crucified him. So he's up on the cross. Who's the public spectacle here? You'd think it was Jesus, right? Because he's up on the cross dying for the sins of the world. And he's the one that's the public spectacle, you'd think. But the Apostle Paul, when he writes Colossians 3:15, says that he disarmed the Romans and the religious elite of the day, making them the public spectacle, because Jesus on the cross defeated death by dying. And so there's all this upside down logic, and we see it all over the Bible. When Jesus says it's better to give than receive. Now try telling that to your 5-year-old at Christmas time, when they're like, mine. Now that's what we think, is we're always, trying to accumulate and get things. It's a very materially oriented society that we live in. And then you've got that was Acts 20 verse 35. And then it says, when I'm weak, in 2 Corinthians 12, 9 through 11, when I'm weak, then I'm strong. That's what the Apostle Paul says. So in his weakness, he finds strength. And so there's all this upside down logic. And so at the conference in Florida, I'm thinking, well, Paul, you haven't gotten very far. You really haven't. It's not going that well. You stand on a scale and you got your score right there. The thing about being fat for me was, everyone can see how I was doing. It wasn't like you could hide it. It's just like, it's really humbling, and it was really awful. And my knees hurt, my back hurt, everything hurt. I was in pain. And so I went to this conference in Florida, and started to look at fasting from the health point of view. And there's lots of great health reasons for fasting. All these studies are out there. All these doctors talk about it. And it's just amazing what it's supposed to do. But, you bring it up in church, and it's like the worst thing to bring up in church. Y'all are very brave for just listening. And just, no one's fallen asleep. No one's walked out. This is really a hard subject. And I'm going to I'm going to talk about why it's so hard in a few minutes. But it's a difficult topic. And it's really not talked about in churches. And there are reasons for that. But, Jesus, and now if anyone wants to go back and, get an extra plate, you don't, this isn't a guilt thing. I'm not going to make you feel guilty if you've never fasted. Feel free to get up and get whatever you need. We're not, I don't approach it from that way, from that point of view of feeling guilty if you don't do it. But, it talks about it in the Bible, and it's sort of unavoidable. It says in Mark 9:29, the disciples were trying to drive out this demon, and it just doesn't go very well. They were driving out demon after demon, and they were really, excited about, all the victories for God that they were having. But then there's this one demon, and it just won't go. It's stuck. And then Jesus has to come and drive it out. And then they ask Jesus, well, why couldn't we drive it out? And he says, well, that kind only comes out by prayer and fasting. And so we sort of understand that fasting has some sort of, and all through the Bible it talks about fasting, but I didn't really understand what was going on. And so so the first few fasts I did went awful. They went awful. I felt horrible, and it just didn't go well. And I'd done a few through the years, and then when someone would bring it up, I would feel really bad. Because I just knew I was powerless, over the cravings. And I'd get these cravings and these uncontrollable urges to eat, and there's just no way to stop it. I was under the control of the food. And so I had to learn about fasting, and that's what I'm going to talk about. Some of the logistics. I'm going to get to that in just a few minutes, but I wanted to talk first about the reasons that we could fast. And I'll pass these out if anyone wants to take it. I'm not going to get through all of this.
I'll pass it.
Yeah, you can pass those out. There's two sides, there's front and back. But one of the reasons that I wanted to fast, was primarily came into for health reasons. I wanted to experience that. They were talking about at the conference. They were talking about how it cured cancer and how it produced stem cells. Your body will. They talked about how your body will produce stem cells, which are great for for healing. And so, but I wanted to be close to God. There are people talking about how they could, when they fast, they could hear the angels sing, and how it was a really intimate time with God. And I'm supposed to spend eternity with God, and if I could get to know Him a little better, I think that would be a good idea. And then what I noticed is when I started to fast, that it would really quiet my spirit. I'm like the type A guy that's running around, running my companies, running my businesses, and just really intense. And very hard for people like me to rest. Thanks, Joe. And but I noticed that my spirit would just sort of go, whoo, and I'd get sort of in a zone. And that was really interesting. I didn't really understand that. And then, fasting is good if you have mountains you want to move in your life, things you need to get done that just aren't budging, procrastination situations, relationships that are just with children or marriage or with a business partner, an ex-wife, all sorts of, sort of mountains that we need to move that are really tough. Another real good reason to fast is to detox. For me, it was a really good way to lose weight. And also, the spontaneous healing of chronic diseases. That's what I noticed. Like, I went to a lot of allergy doctors, and so, fasting is really a good way to heal. And you notice things. You notice things like, wow, that doesn't hurt anymore. Like, I had really bad arthritis in this finger from doing the mouse, and that all went away. And just so many things like that would just spontaneously heal. And then another really great reason to fast is physiological rest. So you think of fasting as this deprivation of food, but it's a time to rest physiologically. And so what happens is you have all these organs of assimilation. So you're assimilating your food. You eat that food and it gets assimilated. And that's your gut, your GI, your small and large intestine, and your stomach. That assimilates the food. And it takes an enormous amount of energy to run that. About 40% of our energy is used to digest food. And so I was on the couch a lot. So I would just say to Melanie, hey, I'm going to go get on my charger. And I'd lay on the couch and do my computer. And a lot of my energy would go to that. But I noticed when I fasted that I didn't have that block of rest, physiological digestion that my body had to do. And then, but what happens is the organs of elimination, that's what processes the food, and there are 4 of them. They're your kidneys, your liver, your skin, and colon, yep. And so those are the organs of elimination. And what happens is when you fast, those get to actually take out the trash. So imagine like in the kitchen, you put the rubbish in the rubbish barrel and then no one empties it. And so that's what my body was like. It was like I would never give it time to empty out the food byproducts, the chemicals, the toxins, and all those things we get there. And so I would never really take out the trash, so to speak, in my body. And so that's why I was storing it all and feeling so bad and getting all these sort of autoimmune diseases. And so what happened is as I was getting into this and understanding this, I started to, spiritually, a lot of things started to really change. And it's almost like if you took the Lord's Prayer, Our Father who art in heaven, you just went through line by line. I started to move in all those directions. I mean, I started to really forgive people. Like, there are people I was just really bitter towards. And, we all have them. And I know I had a lot, and there are probably more that will come to my mind later, but I had some people I was just bitter towards. And I didn't, talk about them a lot or think about them a lot. But, when I thought of that person, it was like, oh, that was, they really did me wrong. And so I started getting on Facebook and friending these people and saying, hey, I hope you're well. And just little things like that. And it freaked some people out. And a lot of people never replied, but I got it off my chest, so to speak, and I forgave them. And that was like spiritual heavy lifting. I just couldn't do on my own. It just wasn't happening. And then, every step of the Lord's Prayer, like, thy will be done, not my will, but your will be done. I started to really say, well, God, what's your will for my life? And just things like that. And so spiritually, just a lot of things just started to budge that just really hadn't budged. And I think fasting had a lot to do with that. And then as far as temptation, I started to get mastery over the food. The food was master of me, and then at some point the cravings went away. And so I was living by cravings. I had a really bad craving for ice cream. Well, I just keep going back to the freezer and getting another little bit, and just a spoon and put it on and eat it. A little spoon and put it, and then honey, the ice cream's gone. Like, who ate all the ice cream? And it's like, oh, Dad ate it all, And so, being under the control of food is a very demoralizing thing, and a very dangerous thing. But I noticed that when I cleaned up when I started dealing with that, a lot of other like sinful areas of my life started to clean up as well. The idea of one sin and having another sin. A lot of sins are related, like the overeating is related to laziness, but there are a lot of things. It's even related to things like cleaning my closet. I noticed that when I started losing the weight and started dealing with my cravings, that I really wanted to clean my closet. I mean, it might seem like a stupid little thing, but if you're living with someone, it's not. But I started to just, in all areas of my life, I started to clean them up. And there are a lot of things like that, and I have them listed there. But what I'll shift to now is, and I'm going to let it go slack. I'm not going to try to finish the rest of this. But I will, as far as following the outline, but I will talk about some of the things that really helped get me to the point where I could fast. Because I would hear the word fast and I would immediately shut down. Hey, I can't do this. And one of the real revelations, and I was really surprised by this, is that physiologically I was hungry. It's like that picture that Dan had up there where you had the overweight Americans and the starving people of Ethiopia. Is I was malnourished and I was hungry. That's why I had these cravings. And so, I would crave the ice cream because I just had this desire to just keep going and back to the fridge and eating. And so what I did is I boosted the quality of my food. And so what I'll pass out is a way to understand the quality of food. Pass this around, just take one. And you can take this if you want and put it on your fridge. I put it right at eye level at my fridge. And so this is what really helped me beat the cravings, was I nourished my body for the first time. And so you'll see the things on there like kale and bok choy, and it's green leaves. Now, I hate green leaves. I don't like the taste of them. Melanie loves them. That's why she didn't have the problems I have. But, so what I found is prior to a fast, is if I nourish my body, that I don't have, the hunger doesn't have the power over me. So what I do is I wait, I don't eat until I'm hungry. And the way I know I'm hungry is I'll eat anything. And that's my definition of hunger, is it's not like I'm hungry for a cookie. It's I'll eat kale. If there's kale, I'll eat that plant right there. It's aloe vera. I had that for dinner tonight. I had some aloe vera as part of my dinner. And that's how I know I'm hungry, is I don't have a selective appetite. And so, in the Bible, there's a verse in the Bible, in Proverbs 27, verse 7, where it talks about to the hungry, even the bitter tastes sweet. And so that kale tastes pretty good. I'll go buy some kale and I'll eat the whole thing by the time I get home. And it's like, honey, where's the kale? And, it's like, well, I ate it. It was good. And but kale, and it tastes good. I enjoyed it, And so that's one of the main ways that I've been able to prepare my body for a fast. So Because what happens?
Can I ask a question
Yeah,
about your fasting?
yeah,
So if I was going to try to fast for a day,
yeah.
like when you fast to work out for that, because I've never done this. But if you have to go around your normal day, like you go to work, take the kids to school, do all this, can you fast and get through the day with doing your normal stuff without like, I mean, to me, I would think I would pass out if I don't eat.
Yeah, blood sugar drops and you feel horrible.
So how do you?
Yeah, here's what you got to
that?
do is you got to start small. And you got to know your body. So what happens when you shut off the organs of assimilation? That cues the organs of elimination to kick in. And what that feels like is, it's called a Herxheimer or a cleansing reaction or healing reaction. And you can Google that, it's on the paper. And so you feel like you have the flu or have the cold, you have the low blood sugar, you know, and irritable, sometimes headache. And so what I recommend doing is just doing baby steps. Work on the quality of your diet when you do eat. Work on the quality. Boost the quality up. Use the Joel Fuhrman Andy list. I love Joel Fuhrman. He's the guy that really, you know, the book that I watch his videos. You watch a 15-minute video and you'll totally get it. He's very clear. And so start small. You know, delay. I would delay my breakfast till 10 or 11. And I'd start that, and then I'd delay it, you know, just to whenever I need to eat that day and just schedule it in.
So how long would you be eating like this really healthy, nutrient dense before you even tried to start fasting?
Yeah, well, that just depends on how much toxicity you have in your body. It's like taking out the trash. How big is the pile of trash? How many garbage bags are there? And so you're going to get a feel for that. Yeah, and so it's different for every person. And so I would just say experiment with that and just see how you do. If you have a really bad healing reaction, so what I try, then you need to slow down. And if you have kids and you have things like that, now what you'll find is that when you get the kids on a really healthy diet, if you can get them there, they'll be a lot less of a handful. You know, because they won't, you know, when they eat this junk food, they go berserk. You know what it's like when you pick them up at the birthday party, right? You know, they've had that blue frosting and all that. It's just like, wow. So what you want to do is understand what true hunger is, and then work from there. But so what happens now when you break a fast? What I do is I go immediately to the dark green leafy vegetables. Is what I do. You can do it your own way. Not everyone does it the way Paul does it. But what that does, when you eat food, it's not the hydrochloric acid that breaks it down so much as the microbiome, the organisms living in your gut. And so they die off when you fast, which is good and bad. It's good because you can replenish those with good microbiology. And so by eating dark green leafy vegetables after a fast, I'll go out to the garden. I have a garden and I'll eat them from the garden. And so that replenishes my microbiology and it reprograms my cravings to want dark green leafy vegetables. I didn't think this was possible, but it works. And so, and I notice a lot of foods, like food is sort of like God gave us food in a particular format, and then man's taken that food and processed it into other formats that are addictive. And addiction isn't about freedom, it's about slavery, right? Like when I'm addicted to ice cream, I'm a slave to the ice cream. And I've lost my freedom. I've basically been overcome by the ice cream. And so God's about freedom. The foods that you see on the top of that list aren't addictive. Like you're not going to get hooked on kale like you will on like a chocolate bar or an ice cream. And so you can do it for a few days, a few weeks, but you can just do this all the time too. You eat from the top of that list, and what will happen is you'll become really lean and really strong. And so when I get out of bed every morning, 80 pounds lighter, and I'm not in pain, that feels really good. That feels really good. And I sort of do this and see, this is true. I'm not fat anymore, and I'm just immediately thankful and grateful, and I feel good.
How long do you fast for?
What's the longest?
Okay,
What's
so
the longest you've ever done?
oh yeah, actually I'll get to that. So I get back from
We've got
Florida.
like 3 minutes.
Yeah, I can wind it up. There's no problem. And I'll stay late if anyone wants to talk to me. So I get back from Florida, And at Fellowship Bible Church, where I go to church, they have a 40 days of prayer and fasting. And I was feeling really good. I was feeling really stoked. And I went for 2 weeks with a fast. But
Is that just water?
just water for 2 weeks. Yep. And I was.
Do you do a normal routine, or are you like in the house? Like
I work at home. Yep.
But like,
No, I don't watch 4 kids, little kids. No. I was able to clear out my schedule.
Okay.
Yeah. But the other odd thing is I would get on the phone and I was getting much more done than I would usually get done. I mean, like things were just like moving. It was like, I wouldn't say it was like having supernatural power, but I saw things like situations that had just been stuck for years really start to move. And so that was really, really inspiring. And then Melanie knew I was fasting, but my other workers and people, no one really knew. Yeah, and I would
love to know your point of view.
Yeah,
like
so,
each other fast.
so at the same time, I did a fast. I got to about the 6th day, and I really was having a hard time keeping the water down. It was making me feel nauseous. And then the next day after that, my daughter was coming back from camp, and the next day after that, I was going to be at homeschool co-op all day. So it's kind of like I knew that I had to break the fast because it was really hard. So, but I was really pleased because that's the longest that I've ever gone, and so I really like I know that one day fast is even overwhelming if you've never fasted before, but like even a 3-day fast is considered a short fast. And even
I'm thinking like a 6 hour.
Yeah, no, that's a great place to start.
Yeah, I mean, it's so baby steps and just sort of, But I mean, the first time I ever did a 3-day fast, I was amazed at the energy that I had even on the 3rd day. And I went into like the 4th day, because I sort of usually fast from Sunday night through to breakfast in the morning of it, whether I'm doing a 1-day fast or a 2-day fast or whatever. And so, but this time I did a 3.5 day. I was just flabbergasted at the energy that I had. And I actually, just as an example, I don't recommend this, but I went to the gym because I had that much energy. I was like, I'm going to get on the treadmill, but it's okay. I'm giving myself permission. Like the minute I feel like I'm going to...
You've also overcome your own medical challenges,
yeah, and
right?
I had chronic fatigue syndrome about 19 years ago, and so I've been vegan for the large part of that, and that's what really healed me was nutrition, plant-based, whole foods, and so.
And chronic fatigue is not, they can't diagnose, or they don't know what's causing it,
yeah,
right?
the good doctors have given up on me, and I felt so just hopeless. I just was like, what am I going to do? And then a friend of mine said, hey, there's this lady in Franklin. She helped this other lady that she knew, and so I was like, okay, well, give me a number, I'll call. But I just still felt so hopeless. And then when I spoke to her on the phone, I was like, the light bulb went on, and I was like, I've got to do this. And so he came on, and I was like, honey, I really want to do this. I feel like this is really the path God's calling me down. And so I said, don't worry, I'll cook just the same for you, but I feel like I've got to try anything for myself. And within 6 weeks, my energy came back, and I haven't looked back since.
So at the bottom, thank you. I know we're out of time. At the bottom of the handout, there's an invitation. We're having a health talk at my house on next Saturday. I live right down the street. That's at 11 o'clock. And you're welcome to come and look at my fridge and see my garden. I have a big garden. And then you can ask me all sorts of questions, and I can stay late tonight if anyone has any other questions. But I didn't go through all the material. I wasn't going to try to. But I wanted to have it there for people that, bye Rachel, for people that were curious and just wanted to know more. So thanks for your attention and a difficult subject.
Can I add one thing to what Paul said? Because again, these guys have influenced me. I have an athletic background. We avoided fasting like the plague because, again, the research shows that you lose 75% muscle and then 25% fat. Because 25% the fat is more of a complex molecule. But I started doing fasting, and what I think what you guys are asking is, how do you approach it when you're a neophyte? And I've been a neophyte for my whole life. But I'll just, a day like it's on Sunday where I don't have anything I have to do in the middle of the day, I just skip from early breakfast to late dinner. And again, when I started doing this, I thought, man, this is the worst thing. But you start getting used to it, and especially if you put a spiritual object that you're praying about, that you're focusing on, it really helps the two, like Paul's saying, to come together, and you really mesh, and you really get what they're talking about in the Bible, where they fasted and prayed about certain things that were important in their lives and important in other people's lives as well. So I can say, again, from never having done it in my life, that it is a good thing, and it allows your body to really eat its own junk that it's got, that, you know, that you've never stopped eating, the stuff that, like Paul's saying, gathers on our insides. But once you stop, it starts, our bodies are so wonderfully made that they eat the bad stuff first before they start going to the other stuff. So, but I just do a little bit at a time where I know I'm not going to have to do anything that's, you know, is something where I have to focus. That I've not got to where Melanie or Paul are, where they can go work out. But it does feel good to do it, and it feels good when you come off of it, especially.
Thank you. Well, thank y'all for being here. I think it's even your 40th wedding anniversary today.
Actually, that was an old one that I posted just because.
I was like, and you're spending it with us.
Actually, that was a year or so ago, but yeah, we're coming up. We got 41 coming up. So.